Now, this was done in Adamawa State, and they were all settled back in their communities. Yes, so with regards to Borno State, we also made it a condition. We had a meeting with the state government that if we are going to bring back our refugees from Niger, it has to be to a safe environment, at least where normalcy has been restored. And one very important issue here, like my colleague mentioned, is to have a focal person.
Also agreed that it is important to ensure that refugees are repatriated under safe and secure environment and integrated back into society under long-term and sustainable resettlement plans. Still on bilateral talks, the government of Indonesia has indicated interest in investing in Nigeria's infrastructure. Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia to Nigeria was the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission to discuss areas of interest. Benny Adams tells us more.
While several countries have shut their borders as a result of COVID-19, Nigeria and Indonesia are bonded by the need to survive the economic impact of COVID-19 by leveraging on their shared similarities. Both countries hope to utilize their population to fast-track prosperity and infrastructure development. The exchange here amplifies that bond, and this meeting is to discuss areas of interest, one of which is Nigeria's concession of 4 new international airport terminals.
The project Nigeria have, why not? Probably Indonesia can contribute our ability to work together.
Having attracted an investment portfolio of $8 billion recently, the leadership of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission believes that a private sector-driven development partnership is the needed link to create prosperity for Nigerians.
$700 million of investment. Look at what Lekki will do. If this seaport is going near to commercial close, the silos which were abandoned have been concession and have yielded revenue. So, we're also working with the Federal Ministry of Health with teaching hospitals.
The ICRC says it is creating the regulatory framework for public-private partnership that creates confidence for private sector investment. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian First Lady Aisha Muhammad Buhari is in Lagos to commiserate with the family of the late former governor of Oyo State, Abiola Ajimobi. The aircraft conveying the First Lady landed at the presidential wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport at exactly 12:19 in the afternoon, with senior officers in her office on her entourage. She advised the family of the late former governor of Oyo State, Abiola Ajimobi, to take solace in the enviable legacies he left behind as a politician and community leader. The former governor died last Thursday after battling with complications from COVID-19. And now to sports. Sports federations charged on youth mentorship. Ayodeji Makinde has details on sports updates.
Director, Grassroots Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Ademola Are, urges national sports federations to sustain the monitoring and nurturing of products of National Youth Games for the future glory of the nation.
We go to Ilori every year. Athletes are discovered. What happens to these athletes after they are discovered? The federations are expected to take over those athletes, organize competitions for them, do summer camps for them and all those things. It should not always be Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport that will be doing all that.
Meanwhile, reigning champions of Nigeria Women's Basketball League, Air Warriors of Abuja, are working towards successful defense of their title through regular training schedules amid COVID-19 prevention measures.
Everybody has really recuperated, and with this now, they should expect the best of basketball, because we are people that set standard, and thank God with the kind of record we have in Nigeria, we will not want to disappoint our supporters anytime.
And in football, players of Egyptian Premier League side Zamalek have refused to resume training or return to complete the current season unless a cure for COVID-19 is found. Football activities in Egypt are due to return on July 25 despite the growing spread of the virus in the country, with more than 66,000 confirmed cases. In Abuja, Ayodeji Makinde, NTA News.
Without humanity is not a development that is holistic. is a development that also will come with some forms of challenge. So if we follow that path, the challenge will be so enormous that we cannot also be able to address some of those challenges.
All right, Comrade President, many administrations in Nigeria have tried to tinker with the setup in the public service, the civil service. Many reforms, many committees have been set up in the past by various administrations, including the Buhari administration, to review practices in the civil service and government departments and agencies. Some reports from some committees from early administrations have been sent forward to current administrations. What is the position of Labour on these mergers and reforms at this point in time?
Well, let me make the point that, yes, there have been a lot of reforms in the past by successive governments. And I can say that some of those reforms have not been able to deliver on what they ought to have delivered. Let me give you one example. In 2004-2005, there is the entire public service reform, where we put in the issue of monetization, the sale of government houses, saying that once you do that, and also outsourcing some services, particularly drivers and cleaners in the ministry, department, and agencies. As we speak today, most of those promises that have been made, that those reforms will deliver, they have not been able to deliver. In fact, monetization has been abused. Because the essence of monetization is to say that political such amount will go. But we have seen what is happening now. Still, our resources is being used to buy vehicles. They call it utility, but under the utility they hide, and they have been doing a lot of havoc. Even those category of workers that have been outsourced, you have seen what is happening. I remembered when I was on the board of one of the teaching hostels. In fact, the management was sued because they couldn't pay for an outsourced service. First, the cost of the outsourced service is even much higher than the staff that were laid off. So the hospital could not cope up. They have to abandon entirely that process of outsourcing cleaners, because also cleaning hospital is not like cleaning other places. So I can say that it has been policy somersault, no consistency, and in most cases they have not worked. Well, of recent we have also heard about the Onosade the white paper did well, because they were able to curtail challenges that will have arose from implementing that committee report. Let us also have those agencies are also establishments of law. They were enacted by law. If you want to merge two agencies have law that is backing them, we then have to review the law also to do the merger. If merger is about bringing efficiency and productivity, we are for it. But if merger is actually targeted at reducing the workforce, then it's also going to compound our issue. So we'll follow logically to interface with the implementing committee to know which one are they even implementing and how are they going to implement it. Because we are in a very precarious situation, and I think also that it will not be proper even to implement it now. Let us get out of one challenge so that we don't put too many things on the table, and then at the end of the day we lose essence of what we want to achieve. I think it's for us now to concentrate and fight coronavirus and let the process and the economy and also the challenge be addressed substantially. Then we can look at other issues so that we don't just get our mind divided in addressing some of those issues.
All right. Lockdowns are being eased all over the country, and the machinery of the civil service is coming back to life, albeit gradually. Certain categories of workers at the national level have been asked to resume duties 3 times a week. States have also adopted some of these measures. But here, you have also some challenges. How prepared are employers to ensure the safety of the workers who resume duty? Where I'm going to is, what are the rights of the worker to say, look, if you have not provided this safe environment and the things I need, which now are not just what used to be because of this virus, what is the right of the worker to say, look, I cannot go back to work under the circumstances if you have not provided what is necessary for me to work in this pandemic.
Well, first, let me start by appreciating profusely Mr. President for actually allowing for gradual opening up. Because it was one conversation that I think there had been for and against. But I think in this case, I think the decision is well balanced. What remains is the implementation, which is what we need to do to ensure that that good gesture is not also abused. I think our problem stems from two issues. One is the fact that when people begin to compare Nigeria and possibly countries like Ghana, they forget that Nigeria is a federation and Ghana is a unitary state. Because in the case of Ghana, the lockdown was done at once. And therefore, every of the other provinces and entities were under lockdown. In the case of Nigeria, even when we locked down Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja, some states were still operating. And people were able to leave Lagos and travel to states like Kano, up to Maiduguri. I saw people traveling on motorcycle. From Lagos to Maiduguri, people travel on motorcycle. Some joined trucks. So we are not actually operating at the same frequency in responding to this issue. So to now say perpetually, because in the case of Nigeria, like in the case of the US, governors also have their own role to play in declaring either lockdown, partial lockdown, or even refusing to lock down completely. And that is what has happened. So in order to do a balancing and ensure also that some category of people don't suffer, and also some category of people don't have their means of livelihood cut off, that balance was then proposed. And I think it's a wise decision.
Right.
In the context of this, there are many models around the world that have worked. There are countries that have not undergone any lockdown. One of them is Sweden, Korea, and Taiwan.
South Korea.
Yes, they have not, that's why I say Korea. They have not done any lockdown. What they did is to enforce, one, social distancing, enforce use of masks, enforce the issue of personal hygiene. And it's working. And the economy is also working. So we must be smart and innovative in the context of Nigeria. We don't just go and adopt what will not work in our own situation, because in our own situation, 70% or more are in the informal sector. You need to make sure you accommodate them. And that's why when the relaxation was made, you see the number of people that trooped out, even to access banking services. That is to tell you the enormity of the problem. So I don't share in those that are arguing that we should look at countries like Ghana. No, we are not at the same level.
All right.
You should compare apple with apple.
Okay.
You don't compare apple with a pineapple. That will not work, and I think that has no empirical or scientific basis.
Okay, the work
so
has been asked.
Going now to the issue of how we can ensure safety,
of the work,
even in this gradual lockdown. What is important, I think, is for us also not to just do copy and paste. Even in the gradual opening up, we must know the situation of our people now. In the civil service or public service, I expected that it should be gradual. Maybe you start even from level 15 or directors and one staff. You start at that level and make sure that you provide also all the protective requirements in terms of hand sanitizers, in terms of wash hand basin and equipment, in terms of mask. All of these things need to be provided, and we monitor the situation. And gradually, from one level to another, we can then gradually look at the situation gradually. We can even look at, among the number of days, how many days will such people come to work, and how many days will they actually be effective. So gradually we monitor the situation. But I think the issue of scaling of occupational health and safety is very important. And we have said our workers must insist, especially the frontline health workers that have been working effectively.
Okay, you speak
and
of
they have been putting in their best.
Health workers.
In some facilities up till now,
right,
even hand sanitizers are not available in primary centers. Some of the states have not been able to provide some, and you don't know who will be coming.
To this kind of situation at a public meet. If you recall what happened at certain burials, reporters had gone in there. I spoke to some of them, and they said they were compelled by their employers to cover, even though they had no masks, they had no sanitizers, they had no gloves. They were forced to cover situations like that. Sometimes you have situations where journalists are asked to go out. At what point can they say, look, this has to be provided?
Yeah, let me try to categorize the workers into two categories, which is also a global standard. One, you have the frontline health workers, and you have also workers that are on essential service. So journalists fall under the category of workers that are on essential service, because whether corona or war period, journalists also are working. And what is expected is that they must be provided with, one, the protective equipment or gears that they require. For instance, the face masks and also sanitizers. It is expected that the minimum that should be provided for them is that their employers must provide this. But two, we must also take responsibility, because the issue of maintaining social distance is a personal responsibility that we must also take and make. So in this case, these are the two forms of approach that is required. One is for the frontline health workers, because one, they will be treating the sick. But two, you have also essential workers, like the armed forces, the police. Some of them have also gotten infected. The journalists have gotten infected. But in this case, we must also be very strategic to ensure that, yes, employers must provide A, B, C, but also the worker must also take full responsibility of ensuring social distancing. When you are covering an event, it is expected that you must be sure that social distancing is maintained. As a law enforcement agent, police and paramilitary, if they are also enforcing the lockdown, they must also take precaution. One, they require also the mask, they require hand sanitizer, but they must respect also social distances. So in all circumstances, we have a responsibility of workers. We have a responsibility of unions to ensure that the worker is given the material he needed to work, but also the worker also have to take some responsibility. If these things are not provided, your safety is first.
Let's
report to your union
look at
and
the
we'll be ready
health
to take it
workers
up.
in the front line, the health workers who are in the front line, for instance. Would you push for a specific policy? I do recall that after reports about some pregnant health workers being exposed to COVID-19 and being and contracted the disease, questions were raised about whether or not pregnant health workers should be in the front lines. No specific, decision was taken that I recall. It was just that the health workers should consider their position. I am saying, would you push for a definite policy to say any pregnant health worker should not
Yes,
be in the
certainly.
front line?
It's just like a war situation. In war situation, you are sure that you don't take the weak or those that are aged to the front line. You possibly keep them as reserves. In this case,
Coronavirus. No be only big man like me they catch you. If it catch anybody, even poor man himself if it get them. So, make we join hand together. Take stop with this deadly disease where they kill our people and they never get a cure. Together, we go overcome if we do all the things where they tell us to do.
We'll do everything within our capacity to ensure that we deliver on the mandate of the Mr. President and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Newly appointed members of 3 constitutional bodies of federal government charged to contribute their quota to national development.
We thank Nigerians for their patience and understanding, and we urge them that they should strictly abide with the new airport protocols.
Ray of hope for air passengers as Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 reassures Nigerians that domestic flights will commence gradually on the 8th, 11th and 15th of this month. And legislation that would enable High Court judges to order forfeiture of assets on course in the National Assembly. Hello and a warm welcome to NTA Network News. I am Joseph Johnson in Abuja. Michael Olaleye is in Lagos and Mohammed Ibrahim is standing by in our Maiduguri Network Center. And of course, Kemi Oshin will join us a little later from Ibadan. Thanks for your company. Now let's begin by telling you that the newly appointed members of 3 constitutional bodies of the federal government have been sworn in. President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the ceremony in exercise of the powers conferred on him by Section 154, subsection 1 of the nation's constitution. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
It was the first swearing-in ceremony to be performed by President Muhammadu Buhari since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic in February this year. At the event witnessed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Governor Abdulrazak Abdulrahman of Kwara State, some members of the Federal Executive Council and chairmen of other constitutional bodies, Dr. Muhiba Farida Dankaka from Kwara State and 37 others were sworn in as chairman and commissioners of the fully reconstituted Federal Character Commission.
That will be fair, and we'll make sure that we do the right thing.
What do you mean doing the right thing?
Doing fair to every one of Nigerians. The children of nobody can be employed.
We'll do our best. We will abide by all the rules and regulations and make sure MDAs that are under the federal character comply with the principles of federal character.
And I think the whole idea of federal character principle is to be able to, in spite of all that difficulty, to ensure that the people of Nigeria are united.
6 commissioners also took oath of office to fill existing vacancies in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission.
I will put in my best according to the oath I have just taken, and that my intention is to do what is best for Nigeria.
For me, it is a call to duty. It is a service to the nation.
I will do everything within our capacity to ensure that we deliver on the mandate of the Mr. President and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We assure the President that an old hand and good hand, excellent hand, tested hand, trusted hand is coming on board to assist him to take the country to the next level.
President Muhammadu Buhari also swore in 2 members of the Federal Civil Service Commission.
I will be very, very faithful to Mr. President, and I will discharge my duty to the best of my ability.
There were no speeches delivered at the brief but remarkable event held at the council chambers of the presidential villa. The secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, however, told NTA News that the appointees are fully aware of their expectations as the Buhari presidency strives to take Nigeria to the next level of socio-economic development.
There are so many things that we want them to begin to do in terms of re-energizing the system. The Federal Character Commission particularly has responsibilities in the Constitution, which is very, very fundamental to ensure equitable distribution of not only offices, but even of amenities and benefits and welfare to the people of the country. The revenue mobilization, it's very critical, particularly now that we have very serious shortfalls in our earnings. Look at the non-oil sector, particularly in terms of mobilizing revenue for the country. And the Federal Civil Service Commission is an institution that has a responsibility of looking at the federal civil service in terms of employment, in terms of promotions, in terms of capacity building.
Unlike the usual practice, the new appointees were not accompanied to the ceremony by their family members, as the presidency does not compromise adherence to the social distancing COVID-19 protocols in the new normal. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has approved renewal of the appointments of 12 non-career ambassadors, assuring Nigerians of fairness in representation and inclusiveness in all matters of governance. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity says the renewal of the appointments followed a performance evaluation which necessitated an approval for continuation in office of the ambassadors, and the President will still decide if they will remain in their current postings. The President congratulates the ambassadors on their renewal, urging them to keep upholding and promoting the values of stewardship to Nigeria while bridging good relations with other nations. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, says all necessary measures have been put in place for the resumption of domestic air travel in Nigeria, preparatory to the reopening of flights at designated airports next week. He was speaking at a meeting with the Senate Committee on Aviation ahead of a resumption of flight operations. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo tells us more.
Less than 4 weeks after the Senate Committee on Aviation met with the leaders of Aviation Workers Union, it met with the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, to brief it on the modalities for the planned resumption of flights and to address issues raised by the unions.
So it is very important that we are here, and I think I must equally emphasize that as we gradually move towards the end of this year, we'll be looking at areas that will require legislative assistance in the area of budgeting.
The minister explained that reopening of the airports will be in phases. First phase to start from July 8 with stringent safety observations as the cabins are being treated to have less contagious risk level.
Staggering is a clever way from us to be able to, 1, test run the system, 2, be able to improve our preparedness, 3, we thought of the locations of these airports.
If you don't have a face mask to start, you are not even going to be allowed into the terminal.
One of the issues raised was the need for recertification of pilots, aircraft and facilities before the resumption.
It goes beyond just setting out the protocols on paper. Those operators need to queue with the regulators.
And so we must be precautious in all that we do.
But the truth of the matter is the world has shut down globally. All the training institutions have shut down. Not all the pilots are out of currency. We have the training captains and the line check captains.
The ministry and its agencies called on all passengers to give maximum cooperation to airport staff, especially on safety precautions. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Still from the National Assembly, a legislative amendment that would grant discretionary powers to High Court judges to order forfeiture of assets is on course at the House of Representatives. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
Sponsored by the Deputy Speaker Ahmed Idris Wasi, the bill seeks amendments to the Currency Conversion Act, also known as the Freezing Orders Act, to enable federal high courts in the country to adjudicate on forfeiture of assets relating to financial irregularities.
It will give us more leverage and more encompassing democratic opportunities. Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, it is just a one-line amendment to remove the power from the President and allow the Constitution to come in.
The bill passed second reading and has been referred to House Committee on Judiciary. Also passed at second reading is the bill sponsored by Representative Igariwe Iduma, seeking the establishment of Akanu Ibiam Federal University of Technology, Unwana, Ebonyi State. Other issues taking its House plenary Thursday are the adoption of a motion from Minority Leader Ndudi Elumelu seeking the release of the wife of a Lance Corporal allegedly being detained by army authorities, and the motion from Deputy Minority Leader Tobi Okechukwu calling on government to provide security protection to people in parts of Enugu State experiencing attack by alleged herdsmen.
Bringing the killers to book will serve as a deterrent to other criminals elements in the state.
In the meantime, the House has passed resolutions to investigate Nigeria Ports Authority over allegation that it operates a secret dollar account with a commercial bank, as moved by Representative Kolawole Lawal. Also to be investigated are skills acquisition and social investment programs of the federal government and the status of recovered loot by agencies of government from 2010 to date.
Thousands of seized vehicles, cash on transit at ports, departures, and other items estimated to cost about 500 billion naira are currently wasting away.
The motion by the Deputy Speaker urging authorities to repair the collapsed bridge linking Wasi and Langtang to Taraba State was adopted, just as House members supported the call from Representative Olododo Cook seeking concerted effort from authorities to secure the release and safe return of Nigerians in detention in Libya. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Now let's turn to the judiciary now, because the federal government says it will activate all existing laws in Nigeria to ensure that all those who have tampered with the commonwealth of the country do not get away with the looted funds. The Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation made the declaration while receiving the newly developed plea bargaining manual for the country. Judiciary correspondent Femi Okewu has more.
In order to raise the level of confidence for that provision that the nation's lawmakers then made it a part of our laws. Now, Section 270 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act provides for the adoption of plea bargain in the prosecution of corruption offenses. Even then, it would seem it has been sparingly used by prosecutors. This is why a manual has now been developed to sharpen its understanding and help both prosecutors and the courts get the best out of the plea bargain provisions. Director of Public Prosecution of the Federation said that the manual will go a long way in advancing the government's fight against corruption.
It helps in the management of the caseload of prosecutors and enable the state to concentrate its limited resources on the cases considered more deserving of full prosecution. If carefully applied, plea bargain can enhance the quick return of stolen assets.
The manual was developed by the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program, ROLAC, and the Center for Social-Legal Studies.
But how do we know when plea bargain is not in the public interest? The factors to consider are listed in Article 9 of the manual.
In Abuja, Femi Okewu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has suspended indefinitely the Managing Director and Chief Executive of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF, Mr. Adebayo Somefun, Mr. Jasper Azwatalam, Executive Director Finance and Investment, Mrs. Olukemi Nelson, Executive Director Operations, and Alhaji Tijani Suleiman, Executive Director Administration. Their suspension from office arose from the preliminary established prima facie infractions on the Extant Financial Regulations and Procurement Act and other acts of gross misconduct. Some management staff were also suspended during the period of their suspension. The suspended officers are to face a joint board and audit investigative panel that has been set up to look into the financial and procurement breaches, as well as gross misconduct in the NSITF for periods of 2016 to date, which have invariably put the contributions of stakeholders in a perilous state. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has therefore directed affected officers to hand over to the most senior officers in their respective departments. You're watching NTA Network News. Stay with us. We'll be back soon.
I wish to once again commend the frontline workers across the country who, on a daily basis, risk everything to ensure we win this fight. For those who got infected in the line of duty, rest assured that government will do all it takes to support you and your families during this exceedingly difficult period. I will also take this opportunity to assure you all that your safety, well-being, and welfare remains paramount to our government. I am using this opportunity to express our deepest condolences to the families of all Nigerians that have lost their loved ones as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our collective loss, and we share your grief.
This kind of nonsense has to end today. Why would the bank be removing somebody's money every time like that?
Mr. John.
My neighbor.
Yes, sir. Why are you rushing to like this?
Can you imagine? I just sent money to my son, and I got a debit alert of 50 naira from my bank as stamp duty. I am going to seek explanation from my bank because I made a transfer, not post a letter.
Mr. John. Let me explain what stamp duty is. Stamp duty is not all about postage stamp matters. The 15 naira is a stamp duty levy charged by banks on customers who make transfers of 10,000 naira and above from one bank account to another bank account.
And why should I pay stamp duty for my hard-earned money?
Mr. John, paying stamp duty levy is a civic duty for every patriotic citizen. The taxes we all pay are collected and used by the government to pay salaries and provide basic amenities for citizens. It's even easier to make stamp duty payments now. All you need to do as a taxpayer is to log on to the following: www.stampduty.gov.ng or www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-stamping. By the way, Mr. John, it pays to pay your tax, you know.
Oh, thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you, my daughter.
You're welcome,
My
sir.
regards to your family.
All right, sir.
This broadcast is powered by FIRS, Federal Inland Revenue Service.
For over 70 years, we've practiced healthy hygiene habits together. The world needs us to keep our fight going against germs. So let's wash our hands for 20 seconds regularly. Dettol. Protect what's worth fighting for.
Many Nigerian women, by their contributions to their societies, though they are gone, we still remember them. Today, from northern Nigeria, a living legend is in the making. Ambassador Dr. Fatima Mohammed Goni is an outstanding grassroots political mobilizer. She is one woman who stood and identified with the vulnerables.
Since I was young, if I see people around me happy, I was happy. If I see people, they are not happy, I'm not happy.
This woman is using everything at her disposal to make life worth living for millions of people.
Dr. Ambassador Fatima Goni, I love her because of her commitment to what is on the faces of the less privileged.
The foundation, I think, came as a result of her humility.
We can't let all this effort go uncelebrated. Let's recognize and support the noble efforts of this rare Nigerian woman.
The management of Abuja National Mosque, in collaboration with Nigeria Interreligious Council, NIREC, is pleased to invite you and your close friends and associates to the National Special Jumat prayers to seek for Allah's intervention towards ending COVID-19 pandemic and other lingering security challenges bedeviling our dear nation. The event will inshallah take place at the National Mosque on Friday, 3rd July 2020, beginning from 1 p.m.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Manchester United welcome Bournemouth,
said Governor of Imo State Hope Uzodinma will serve as Deputy Chairman and Abbas Brimo as Secretary of the 49-member APC National Campaign Council. Other members of the Campaign Council include ministers, members of the National Assembly and governors of Gombe, Inuwa Yahaya, Kogi Yahaya Bello, Lagos, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege, and two former national chairmen of the party, John Odigo Yegun and Adams Oshiomhole. The Campaign Council will be inaugurated on Monday, 6th July 2020 at the party's National Secretariat. As political activities gather momentum in Ondo State ahead of the October 10 governorship election in the state, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has released notice on the election to the public. INEC resident Electoral Commissioner in Ondo State, Ambassador Rufus Akeju, says the election will take place in the 18 local government areas of the state. Doris Olumoko reports.
Addressing journalists and other stakeholders about the procedure adopted by the Commission for the Ondo State governorship election on October 10, 2020, Ambassador Rufus Akeju announced that there will be no opportunity for new eligible voters to register, while distribution of permanent voters' card, transfer of registration and replacement of lost or defaced PVC have been suspended for the meantime due to the ravaging coronavirus pandemic in the country. The implication of this development, according to the INEC Commissioner, is that no new voter will participate in the Ondo governorship poll. He also announced that the conduct of party primaries for the emergence of flag bearers will be closely monitored and supervised by INEC officials in compliance with the Electoral Act 2010 as amended.
Political parties primary shall take place between Thursday, 2nd July and Saturday, 25th July 2020.
Ambassador Akeju explained that Ondo State has 1,822,346 registered voters with 1,478,460 PVC collected and 372,888 uncollected PVCs. In Akure, Doris Olumoko, NTA News.
In other news, a technical working group reviewing the post-COVID-19 economic sustainability plan presented to President Muhammadu Buhari has come up with its recommendations with critical attention to research and local content perspectives to all sectors. Elizabeth Omori reports.
The area of science and technology is extremely important.
The changing times and evolving tactics. The coronavirus pandemic has no doubt changed human interaction, and this is a practical manifestation. This group takes advantage of the evolution and meets virtually to review a policy initiative of the federal government on its post-COVID-19 agenda.
With this development now, we are going to put an advisory. There are some of the contribution by Nigerians to see how we can develop the local content. How is it going to be carried out in Nigeria? How is that partnership between the private sector and the government going to allow?
They suggest enhancement of diagnostic capacity and case management of the health sector, full compliance with the Executive Order 5 in the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan, and commercialization of products developed by the Ministry of Science and Technology.
The first thing to do is to ensure that the local solutions that have been developed by Nigerians are supported.
We get diverse views and we even get some conflicting views, but by the time we aggregate those views, you discover that they are not actually conflicting, but they are mutually supportive.
Emphasis was also made on promotion of ICT in order to maximize digitization of all socio-economic activities in Abuja. Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons have resolved to work closely with other stakeholders towards the repatriation of refugees. An agreement to that effect was reached after talks between the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, and the Federal Commissioner from the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Senator Bashir Garba Mohammed. The Federal Commissioner had, during a courtesy visit to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, re-emphasized the key role of the ministry in consolidating support from countries such as Niger and Chad in the repatriation of stranded refugees. The officials also agreed that it is important to ensure that refugees are repatriated under safe and secured environment and integrated back into society under long-term and sustainable resettlement plans. Now, the Nigerian Television Authority has reaffirmed its commitment in partnering with other organizations in carrying out its social responsibility of informing, educating and enlightening the public on matters of public concern. The Director General of the NTA, Malam Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, stated this while playing host to the first female district governor of Rotary International District 9125, Rotarian Jumoke Bamigboye, and other members. Alika Okbanachi Arwa reports.
The WHO Regional Commission for Certification of Polio Eradication accepted Nigeria's documentation of a wide polio virus-free status in June, a major milestone in the country's battle against polio. To safeguard this hard-won battle against the disease, Rotary International is seeking partnership and collaboration with the Nigerian Television Authority in creating awareness on the importance of routine immunization of children.
What I will do differently is adding the woman's touch. You know, we are the energy. To bring the energy into Rotary, to do projects that impact on the community, and to address the needs of the moment.
While commending Rotary International for their service to humanity, the Director General maintains that NTA will continue to be the vanguard in information dissemination and creating awareness on public health issues as well as social vices.
One thing that NTA is, worried about, apart from COVID-19, which is global, is the increasing incidence of rape that we have witnessed in recent past in this country. And we in NTA are making plans to make the fight against rape as one of our major causes. We will pursue it, we'll be the vanguard, we'll be the pivot for that fight against, rape and rapists.
The meeting with the management of the NTA is born out of the authority's posture as the largest television network in Africa. In Abuja, Alika Okbanachi Arwa, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari rejoices with foremost educationist, scholar, poet and community leader Chief Alexander Olu Ajayi on the occasion of his 90th birthday. Joining family members, friends and associates to give thanks to God for the gift of long life and good health, the President salutes Chief Ajayi for a life devoted to sharing knowledge and contributing to the smooth running of many academic institutions. In a congratulatory message, the President commends the fact that from 1953, when the celebrant took a degree at the Forebay College, Sierra Leone, to postgraduate studies in the University of London in 1954, Chief Ajayi had no other motive than to impact the education sector of his country positively. They saw him serving at great schools as a tutor and eventually becoming principal at Fiditi Grammar School, Oyo, at the tender age of 26. Chief Ajayi joined the West African Examination Council WAEC in 1959 and later the University of Ife, where he rose to become Deputy Registrar. The nonagenarian, the President said, served twice as Chairman, Ekiti Central Local Government, without remuneration. President Buhari commends his altruism to the younger generation as he wishes Chief Ajayi good health and sound mind. Well, let's bring you some updates now on COVID-19. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has announced 790 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The latest figure released brings the total number of confirmed cases to 26,484 in Nigeria. A breakdown of the new cases indicates that Delta recorded the highest number for the day with 166 cases, while Lagos has 120 cases, Enugu recorded 66, FCT 65. Let's just get details now from our correspondent Joyce Ometu.
Its new highest figure of daily confirmed cases of COVID-19 of 790 new infections announced by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. With the latest updates, the total number of cases in the country has risen to 26,484. Fatalities at 603, while 10,152 persons have been discharged. Statistics published by Johns Hopkins University indicates that 10,882,847 persons have been infected worldwide, with 520,566 deaths and 6,085,370 people recovered. Out of these numbers, Africa has 422,757 cases, 10,462 deaths with 201,739 recoveries. As African countries begin to reopen borders and airspaces, the World Health Organization says it is crucial that governments take effective measures to mitigate the risk of a surge in infections. Elsewhere in the world, India has reopened its first plasma donation center with the hope that it will help reduce the number of coronavirus deaths. The country has also started what it calls the world's largest plasma therapy trial in Maharashtra. Doctor says treating infected patients with plasma from recovered people could reduce the number of coronavirus deaths. Meanwhile, New Zealand's Health Minister David Clark has resigned Thursday following a series of personal mistakes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Reports have it that David Clark last week blamed a health official for border lapses, generating an angry response from the public. Clark said he was becoming a distraction from the country's virus response. And that's it from here. Many thanks for watching. I am Joyce Ometu.
Still talking COVID-19, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has indicated that 3 out of 5 persons who die of COVID-19 are aged 50 and above. As the cases in Nigeria continue to rise, Chairman of the Task Force, Boss Mustafa, is urging Nigerians to avoid all non-essential travels despite the lifting of the ban on interstate movements to stop transmission. Mitari Igban reports.
The curve of the COVID-19 pandemic has been on a consistent upward progression in the last 1 month, with Nigeria recording its highest daily statistics yet of 790 confirmed cases on the 1st of this month. The managers of the pandemic believe the trend should erase any form of skepticism among Nigerians.
The figures are not meant to scare us, but it's to create a vivid picture of what we're dealing with. The adverse effect of these figures will begin to show in the next 3 weeks.
While majority of the infected cases are under 50 years old, the majority of fatalities are over 50 years old.
We really have to show our elderly citizens love and affection by not exposing them.
The deployment of more gene expert machines repurposed for COVID-19 is expected to increase testing capacity and turnaround time for results.
It's therefore important, if you have come in contact with a COVID positive case or have related symptoms, please take appropriate steps for testing.
Risk communication on the pandemic and social mobilization of Nigerians have also been intensified.
Risk communication committee is already working to translate scripts and small dramas in all the major languages that it can reach everybody.
The PTF clarified that its decision to allow graduating primary and secondary school classes to resume should not be misinterpreted that all schools will resume.
Nobody has resumed schools. Nobody should start negotiating about whether they are essential workers. If you bring teachers today, you must give them PPE.
The Presidential Task Force is urging state governments to provide more bed spaces and increase sample collection sites for testing. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikbem, NTA News.
Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari has described the late former governor of Oyo State, Abiola Ajimobi, as a Democrat who did not only work rigorously to actualize the aspirations of his people, but a pillar of support for the realization of the next level agenda. The First Lady made the remark while sympathizing with the family of the former governor in Lagos State. Michael Olale reports.
It's one of the rare visits of the First Lady to Lagos, which invariably depicts her age-long compassion and love for the Ajimobi family. The First Lady, obviously emotional, urged the family to accept the irreparable loss as an act of God, which is indispensable. She told the wife of the late former governor to remain strong, taking solace in the enviable legacies laid by her husband.
We pray to the Almighty Allah to grant you the fortitude to bear the great loss. And we pray for him to comfort the family. Your husband will be missed greatly.
In line with the mandate of providing support for one of their own, wives of Southern Governors Forum and the Minister of Women Affairs accompanied the First Lady.
We are here to show you that we love you and we are with you in prayers.
We know that you love him so much, but God loves him more. His memory will always be sweet, beautiful, bright, and exciting, even in death.
Never forget Daddy's kindness. I'll never forget how he took care of me and my family at a time when we needed it.
In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
We still have more to bring you from Lagos, but this time Michael will do the honors. Michael, it's good to see you, mate.
Good to see you, Joseph. The Lagos State Police Command has issued serious warning to criminal elements that has been will not relent in bringing them to justice. The State Police Commissioner, Hakeem Odumusu, while parading some suspects, said the strides recorded were part of efforts to further ensure safety of lives and properties as the nation moves into another phase of partial lockdown. Dotun Ogniemi has the reports.
Like everything else that has begun to pick up weeks after the partial ease of lockdown, the mega city of Lagos is gradually returning to its usual hustle and bustle. But crime, they say, never sleeps, and so are law enforcement agents who have proven their efficiency to tackle emerging crimes. Statistics by the Lagos State Police Command show that within the last 1 month, 41 armed robbery suspects were arrested, 28 robbery attempts were foiled, and 195 suspects arrested for cultism, one kidnapped victim rescued, among others.
So in order to reduce that issue of robbery in traffic, so our men are deployed, so motorbikes are deployed, so that if, because of the nature, which is the rain, because of the condition of the road too now, so we have to be on the road, so now men have to make sure that they are not attacked.
I don't know anything about this. Initially, I don't know.
Benson Joshua is a driver. He's not only protesting his arrest, but says he was unaware that the content he was contracted to transport was Indian hemp.
They told me they wanted to carry cloths. Cloths, that was what they told me. And that was what... No, they didn't tell me they were loading the vehicle.
So there's some boys out of our area there. So it's not that take me to go and blend me to area because it's in.
The police says it has also arrested the officer who extorted the sum of 500,000 naira from this citizen. The police commissioner, while returning the money, disclosed that the command is keen on ensuring zero corruption level within its rank and file, and enjoined citizens to report erring officers. In Lagos, Dotun Kunyemi, NTA News.
This is NTA Network News. More reports when we return. Please stay tuned.
Stay-home data plan. All existing Glow customers now enjoy up to 20% more data. Dial *777# to choose a plan. Glow Unlimited. Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Manchester United welcome Bournemouth to Old Trafford as they look to continue the decent start.
Welcome back. You're watching NTA Network News with me, Joseph Johnson. In continuation of efforts by the federal government and stakeholders towards a sustainable power supply in the country, the leadership of the National Assembly this Thursday joined a meeting of the Power Sector Reform Coordination Working Group chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. State House correspondent reports.
Group is here welcoming the door to the group's meeting, which agenda is for more deliberations on power reform in the country. It is a closed-door meeting, but Senate President Ahmed Lawan and Speaker of the House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, while explaining some of the issues discussed, say government at all levels and indeed Nigerians will not settle for nothing but the best from the service providers.
Well, it was a good meeting. We are still exploring the best way possible to improve the power sector in the country. And of course, the essence of that meeting was for us to look at the journey that we need to undertake to ensure that the discourse and the GENCOs provide stable power in the country, and how we should be able to, as an administration, ensure that there is sustainability in the power sector.
Everybody's on the same page, even in Nigeria, amongst Nigerians, that there has to be cost-reflective tariff, because nobody runs any business at a loss. We're working out a situation similar. That point needs to be made, where it's the top echelon, so to speak, for want of a better way to put it, of the society, perhaps I think 15% of the society, that the increase speaks to, not the general 80-85% of the rest of the country.
The DISCO promised us that they will provide quality service. They will fix all their transformers. They will provide meters. And all this is what we are working with them to make sure it's done. So it's not like one will lose, another one will get. It's a win-win approach we are recommending.
Both leaders of the National Assembly Tuesday this week visited the President and the Vice President to express the position of the National Assembly on the proposed increase in electricity tariff, which the Assembly believes it's not the right time to implement due to the challenges the people are facing from the COVID-19 pandemic. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
The federal government has announced an increase in the new pump price of petrol between a price band of 140.80 and 143.80 per litre. Leader Samson visited petrol stations and reports on immediate compliance.
Most independent and major marketers are selling at 143 naira 80 kobo per litre, while NNPC stations sell at 141 naira 80 kobo. Some motorists said they were surprised when they got the news in view of the prevailing economic hardship due to COVID-19. Others say they were not aware of any increase.
New pump price, I'm surprised. Wow. I just drove into the filling station to buy fuel, and you are even the one telling me.
I just got to the filling station now, and the price of oil is 143. This same filling station, it took them over a week to implement the reduction of fuel price to 123.
On getting here now, the fuel just finished on the way here. That is to tell you that the increase affected the what we are buying for the day.
Others, on the other hand, are indifferent since the new price is still less than the old pump price of 145 naira per litre before the COVID-19.
I don't think it's much of an increase, but then to some point, I think most Nigerians would be pained about it.
For some motorists, it's simply all about availability, while calling on government to enforce customer protection for marketers to exhaust old products before selling at the new price. It should be recalled that following the full deregulation of the petroleum downstream subsector, there is a provision for the establishment of a monthly price band. In Abuja, Lydia Samson, NTA News.
Let's now get the next set of reports from our Maiduguri Network Center, and here is Mohammed. Mohammed?
Thank you, Joseph, and welcome to Maiduguri. Adoption of digital technologies and innovation into the premise of teaching and learning have been described as the best way to sustain the university education system while the world battles with coronavirus pandemic. This was the epilogue by discussants at a one-day virtual interactive conference held at Academy.
In resource persons who made presentation via Zoom app harped on the use of digital technologies to solve national developmental challenges, American and Nigerian university systems, as well as leveraging on digital transformation tools for national growth and development. They were also of the opinion that knowledge at various levels of cohabitation, innovation, investment on pertinent research, as well as incorporation of academicians in governance will enable national victory over COVID-19. Chairman of the occasion, Professor Jibrilla Dahiru Amin, described the initiative as keen and timely owing to the globalization posed by technological advancements.
What we need is for the staff to be committed to it. We don't have to be a computer scientist. You don't have to be a computer engineer. You just need to have the zeal to learn, to build your own capacity, to explore and expose yourself to this process.
We have the mindset to face our challenges and conquer our challenges.
The institution is also putting necessary measures in place to manage students and teachers as academic activities can resume across the country within the shortest possible time. In Maiduguri, Jalwa John Jason, NTA News.
That is it from this end. It's back to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mohammed from Maiduguri Network Center there. In line with President Muhammadu Buhari's agenda of diversifying the nation's economy to agriculture, the APC government in Gombe State understands that until important farming inputs such as fertilizer get to the farmers in the remotest farming population, the objective would not be achieved. Fathaya Awolaba was at the rural areas where the government intends to reach when the 2020 wet farming season fertilizer sales was flagged off.
Farming inputs, especially fertilizer, have become the major bane to actualizing farmers' dreams of making agriculture the sustainer of Nigeria's economy. There is a renewed determination to return agriculture to its position as the country's major income earner by the Buhari's administration. Under a unified national agricultural policy, states can now purchase fertilizer for resale to farmers. Governor Muhammadu Inuwaya, in fulfilling his campaign promise of making affordable fertilizer to farmers in Gombe State, procured 20,000 metric tons of fertilizer for resale to farmers at the rate of 5,000 naira per bag for the 2020 cropping season.
Each polling unit, we have 50 bags of NPK already delivered now, and we have 50 bags of urea to be delivered very soon.
The move towards turning the Nigerian's economy round with focus on agriculture may not be without cogs in wheels, particularly with the coronavirus pandemic bringing even first world economies to their knees. Fatia Awal Abba, NTA News.
Let's now turn our attention to Ibadan, where Kemi is standing by. Kemi.
Joseph, and welcome to Ibadan. Soko came the way of Surulere Ogoluwa Federal Constituency in Ogbomoso, which was affected by heavy rainstorm earlier in the year. This was facilitated by the lawmaker representing that constituency in the House of Representatives, Olusegun Odebumi, through the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Correspondent Lukman Hassan has the details.
Items distributed include bags of cement and roofing sheet. Empathizing with affected resident member House of Representatives representing Surulere Ogoluwa Federal Constituency, Olusegun Odebumi, and the Southwest Zonal Coordinator of NEMA asked the people to make good use of the materials given to them.
Your buildings are affected. Talking about wherever you came from. If in as you live here and this thing affected your property,
when you have trees around your houses, you know, the wind, it can reduce the effect, the speed of the wind. So tree planting was what government was doing before.
Some of the beneficiaries expressed their gratitude for the kind gesture. Lukman Hassan, NTA News.
And that's it from Ibadan. It's back to Joseph for more on the news.
Thank you, Kemi. Sports Federation charged on youth mentorship. Ayodeji Makinde has details on Sports Update.
Director, Grassroots Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Ademola Are, urges national sports federations to sustain the monitoring and nurturing of products of National Youth Games for the future glory of the nation.
We go to Ilori every year. Athletes are discovered. What happens to these athletes after they are discovered? The federations are expected to take over those athletes, organize competitions for them, do summer camps for them and all those things. It should not always be Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport that will be doing all that.
Meanwhile, reigning champions of Nigeria Women's Basketball League, Air Warriors of Abuja, are working towards successful defense of their title through regular training schedules amid COVID-19 prevention measures.
Everybody has really recuperated, and with this now they should expect the best of basketball, because we are people that set standard, and thank God with the kind of record we have in Nigeria, we will not want to disappoint our supporters anytime.
And in football, players of Egyptian Premier League side Zamalek have refused to resume training or return to complete the current season unless a cure for COVID-19 is found. Football activities in Egypt are due to return on July 25 despite the growing spread of the virus in the country, with more than 66,000 confirmed cases. In Abuja, Ayodeji Makinde, NTA News.
And just before we go, we'd like to quickly tell you that a documentary on sustainable management of the industrial pollution in Kano State comes up at 10 o'clock. That's, of course, after Network News. And that's it on NTA Network News tonight. Thank you very much indeed for your company. I'm Joseph Johnson. Good night.
Imagine a station where you access information. Think of a station that creates awareness for national development. Imagine a station that prepares you for a bright and greater future. A station for all ages. Documentaries, classroom and television, events coverage, children's programs and variety shows. Always stay tuned to NTA Knowledge on the Star Times platform, channel 359. For partnership, sponsorship and advert placements, contact us on NTA Knowledge. NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
Hey, Emeka.
Hi. Emma, what are you guys doing here?
We came to call you. It's football time.
No, it's still at home time. Haven't you heard of the lockdown for 2 weeks?
Lockdown? Of course we had, but that doesn't mean we can't play ball. After all, we're neighbors. It doesn't affect us.
It doesn't matter, Ayo. Coronavirus is very deadly, and the best way to stay alive is to stay apart and maintain good strict hygiene. Wash your hands regularly and sanitize. Keep a safe distance from everyone. Use a tissue to cover your nose and mouth every time you sneeze and cough. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth before washing your hands, and stay at home till the lockdown is over.
I see. Off I go, my friend. See you after the lockdown.
Don't forget to wash your hands.
We won't. Staying apart is the best way to stay alive. Keep your children locked down at home.
This message is from the National Film and Video Censors Board.
Akili, 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 akili. Will you wash your hands with me? I want to wash my hands with you. Come on, I will show you what to do. Wash your hands in clean water. Wash your hands, wet them with the water. Wash your hands, now add some soap. Scrub your hands in the soap and water. Scrub above and below between the fingers too. Scrub under your nails and scrub a dub-a-doo. Rinse your hands in water. Rinse them clean, rinse away the soap. Dry your hands.
You know also the other issues associated with